Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Unusual Archery. This one has taken me forever to get out. Today we're going to be looking at a bow with no arrows. So this is what is sometimes known as a stone bow, sometimes referred to as a pellet bow. Principle's always the same. And the main thing that makes this a pellet bow is the string. I'm using an old training horse bow. It's got a little bit of a twist in the bottom limb, but still shoots well enough. This is very, very light, only about 12 pounds, which is quite handy because at some point I will probably launch a rock into the back of my hand, which isn't pleasant. So, what makes this special? You'll notice my string is a little bit unusual. Spacer. Some examples seem to have 2, some have 1. I was fiddling around and found that 1 seemed to be optimal for this, but it does seem to vary. I'm just having the top one. And the pouch. This is where I am going to put what I'm going to shoot. So sometimes these were used with a clay pellet, sometimes they're used with small stones. Why would you do this instead of an arrow? Well, long story short, arrows were probably quite expensive back in the day. So if you were going hunting something relatively small and could get away with using a cheaper object, i.e. a small stone, like this one, then you probably would. Why wouldn't you? Now, these seem to have been really, really common in Asia, particularly China. I can see a lot of references to them there, but they do crop up in Europe. Seems to be in regards to hunting birds, which makes quite a lot of sense. And their general use seems to either be for hunting or some references I found from China specifically to speak of it as sort of a children's game. Generally speaking, we're going to be using a much lighter poundage bow than you would normally associate with historical archery. This is light even by those standards. I would estimate somewhere between 20 and 35 was probably what they went for. As I say, this is about 12 and a little bit warped, so possibly even lower. But works well enough for showing. I have deliberately dropped the brace height because that seems to make this work better. I don't know why. I found a couple of examples online that seem to have very, very low brace heights. So something I'm still experimenting with. But let's have a look at how it shoots. So we're going to grab our pellet, small stone. So some use clay pellets. I come from the land of flint, so small bits of flint. Placed into the pouch and then pinch tight. Means I can pull. Now, when I shoot this, pay careful attention to my front arm. Or I will do what I'm not supposed to do and shoot back the bow. Let's try that again. Right. Very critically, I need to step my bow hand out of the way. So I need to do a sort of side capture, very similar to Korean archery. Let's try that again. That was better. And you can see it clears the bow. Now, if I do this wrong, I'm going to wind up taking my own hand out. Because this pouch is shooting that rock pretty much straight at the base of my hand. Now, I like it set a little bit higher than my hand. I've seen examples where it's straight behind. I'm not that confident. I'm probably never going to say. But I can, with a little bit of practice, get a reasonably accurate shot and slap the middle of my target for the start. So, how effective would this have been? To be fair, if you didn't have an arrow and you're hunting something like rabbits, I see no reason why this wouldn't work pretty universally. And you're not going to leave any evidence. So if you were possibly on land you didn't have consent to be on, so, possibly a little bit of poaching, you wouldn't be leaving any evidence that you've been there. So I can definitely see merit to it as a hunting tool. Weapon of war? Nah, I mean, it's probably better than nothing, but to be honest, there are better options, possibly even just throwing the stone at the enemy. It doesn't strike me as though this is going to be something with a particularly warfare-heavy history. As a game, it's actually a fairly entertaining thing to play around once you get over the I may smack my wrist. Again, you pull. It went over. Not the easiest thing in the world to aim. As a conventional archer, this seems to send them quite up comparably. I'm always going slightly higher than I would anticipate. So, some conclusion on the stone bow, pellet bow. It's a fun pastime. Definitely a new set of skill to learn to get used to it. Like I say, that hand movement very over exaggerated. But if you watch, I shoot towards the camera, when I flick my hand out, you see the pouch nice and visibly. So it does end with quite a nice straight release. So the rocks do fly fairly accurately. So for learning this yourself, if it's something you want to have a go at, wear some hand protection. I've deliberately not, because then you can see what my wrist is doing, but big, thick, heavy-duty glove, lacrosse gloves, fencing gloves, something along those lines, because you will smack the back of your hand at some point, and it does smart. Even this, I've caught my hand a couple of times, and it really notices. Making the string really quite simple. This is just a small piece of arrow, broken wooden arrow I had lying around that I've cut a groove in and tied into the string. Just opens my string up nicely. And then my pouch. You can fix them so they don't move as much as this one. I've got this one moving so I wasn't 100% sure where I wanted it. And that just gave me the option to slide it up and down as I needed. You want a fairly thin piece of leather. My original attempt at this, I used a slightly heavier bit and it was just really clunky to get hold of. With this, I can just sort of grip the whole thing and pull really quite comfortably. There doesn't seem to be a lot of finesse in how you hold on to the string. It's very much, if I grab another small pebble, we load, we hold, and we pull. There's not any real, you can say, sort of a pinch draw if you're being really picky, but more of just hold and close. That is the stone bow. Probably making another appearance later on. I shall see you all next time. Thank you for watching.